Hello students, welcome to IAS by Heart. Welcome to the new video series on newspaper. In this video series, we'll be discussing the important editorial articles of The Hindu. Idu illama other news items we'll be compiling in a PDF, and in that PDF the important or the gist of a news article will be highlighted. In the highlighted PDF can be used by aspirants who have given 1 or 2 attempts so that they know what to read in an article. Freshers enna pandrathu appadina, we are compiling newspaper notes. In this notes, we'll be giving the background of the issue, what are the key words of the issue, or article it falls under which category of GS, and what is the main takeaway or main point of that article. It is called as News Crunch. Okay, this is available in our blog, our website, and in our Telegram channel. So apart from this newspaper analysis, we are also providing this video series. We'll be uploading this video series every day, in which we'll be discussing the important editorial articles and op-ed articles from the perspective of mains. Okay, without any further ado, let's get into the video. Let's look at the first article of today about the anti-disclosure amendment that hits the public health. This is about the dilution of patent working and how it would affect the health, or how it would affect the Indian people on the whole. Let's look at the context of this. Recently, the central government amended the Patent Amendment Rules 2020, and this was actually followed by a This was amended following a Delhi High Court order in 2018. In exchange of a 20-year patent monopoly granted to an inventor, India's patent law imposes a duty on the patentee annually who has worked on the invention in India. Usually in India, when the patent is given, it is given for 20 years. 20 straight years, one has the patent to enjoy it. Ana ipo recent eppadi maathirukanga, the patentee or the one who has the patent or who applies for the patent, avanga enna pannom, they have to prove annually. Okay, and this disclosure to be made in the form 27. It is a little technical one, form 27. We don't have to know that much details, which was prescribed under the Patent Rules 2003. This is the Amendment Rules 2020. The original rules was given in 2003 to commercially work the invention in India to ensure that its benefit reach the public and impact on the public interest. Let's look at the salient features of this rules. The center has streamlined the procedure to annually submit the statutes to Patent Office. They have to submit it to the Patent Office annually regarding the working of a patented invention on a commercial scale. And this rules also gives some additional flexibilities to the patentee. Now the patentee has to provide approximate revenue. This feature was not here. Now they have to provide the revenue feature, or how much they earn from this patent. If they have one or more patents, they also have to give the commercial value or how much they earn from that patent. This has to be submitted in form 27 to the Patent Office. Another change that has been made is, if the particular invention is under World Intellectual Property Organization, WIPO, then he need not have to file it under Indian Patent Office. That is another salient feature. Now let's refresh the background a little bit. Actually, it is very mandatory under Indian Patents Act of 1870 for every patentee and every licensee to file a statement as to the extent of commercial working of a patent. And in Delhi High Court, as I told before, in this issue, the High Court directed the government to take action for carrying out necessary amendments. And as per that direction, now the amendments have been Now the changes have been included and the recent amendment of 2020 is in place. let's look at the advantages of the new amendment. The first advantage I would say is earlier the one who has the license or sub-licensee, their details all have to be provided. Now it is done away with, and now no more requirement to provide statement on meeting public requirement. Actually, in 2003 rules, the patentee was required to state if the public requirement for the patented invention has been met partly or adequately to the fullest extent. Now that this has been removed, that is, on meeting public requirements have been removed. The third major advantage and one of the important problem that we always face in India is red tapeism. That is, too much forms. If one has to follow is red tapeism. இப்போ GST file பண்ணனும்னாலும் சரி, any other document that one has to file with the government, they'll be given too much forms, too much lengthy process to follow. That discourages people to follow the rules. Other break பண்ற மாதிரி, again, even for patent, if one has to apply for one or two or more invention, a single form is enough. Previously, if for separate patents one has to file for separate forms, now that is also done away with. So these are the advantages of the new Patent Amendment Rules 2020. All rules will have some disadvantages. Let's look at the disadvantages one by one. This could hamper the compulsory licensing regime, which depends on full disclosure of the patent. Before there were we required more transparency. Ana ippo konjam it has become but now by providing more flexibilities to the patentee, இந்த அளவுக்கு transparency தேவையில்லைங்கிற மாதிரி it has reduced, which can have negative effects. For example, if someone is finding a cure for corona ன்னு வெச்சுக்கலாம், in the patent rules follow பண்ணா, one doesn't have to disclose the full details about his invention. By doing this, this rule hampers many people's access to life-saving medicine. That's what this article claims. Lack of accessibility in case of patented medicines could in turn have adverse consequences for public health of the country. Therefore, the government must reconsider its amendments to form taking no account to the PIL recommendations and re-amend it to restore as well as re-strengthen its spirit. It also recommends that the government should strictly follow the rules and it should punish the violators, because very important inventions could be taken away, or it can be in the form of patent be made inaccessible to the public and to the government. Now let's move on to the next important article. This article talks about the gender gap in agriculture. The headline says, don't ignore the women farmers. The main focus area is how the gender gap is present in agriculture sector. It starts with the quote of Ms. M.S. Swaminathan. It says, some historians believe that it was women who first domesticated crop plants and thereby initiated the art and science of farming. So one could say that women are forefathers of agriculture. While men went out hunting in search of food, women started gathering seeds from the native flora and began cultivating those from the point of view of food, feed, fodder, that is for animals, fiber and fuel. But unfortunately, what is the position of women in agriculture? Let's study about this further. The common misconception. When I say a nurse, what is the image that pops in your mind? A female, right? When I say a farmer, what is the image that pops in your mind? A male, right? Why are we so common with this stereotyping? Aren't women more farmers there? இப்போ நான் நர்ஸ்னு சொல்கிறேன்னா உங்கள் இமேஜில் இப்போ நான் நர்ஸ்னு சொன்னேன்னா உங்கள் மைண்டில் என்ன இமேஜ் பாப் ஆகுது? அ விமன், ரைட்? ஒரு ஃபார்மர் அப்படின்னு சொன்னேன்னா உங்கள் மைண்டில் என்ன இமேஜ் வருது? ஒரு மேல். வை இஸ் திஸ் கைண்ட் ஆஃப் ஸ்டீரியோடைப்பிங்? அருண் தேர் மேல் நர்சஸ், அருண் தேர் ஃபீமேல் ஃபார்மர்ஸ்? ஏன் இந்த ஸ்டீரியோடைப்பிங் ரொம்ப காமனாக இருக்குது? அதை பற்றி எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்ணுறதா இந்த ஆர்டிக்கல். லெட்ஸ் ஸ்டடி மோர். வாட் இஸ் த காமன் மிஸ்கன்செப்ஷன்? In India, whenever we talk about agriculture, we think of men as farmers. However, according to the agriculture census, 73% of rural women are engaged in farming activities, but only 12% own land holdings. So, you can see the highest disparity here. 73% of rural women are engaged in farming and agriculture, whereas only 12% have land under their names. This is due to various factors like cultural, social and religious forces. Women have been denied ownership of land. This stems from the perception that farming is a man's profession. Human Development Survey report says that 83% of agricultural land in the country is inherited by male members and less than 2% female members inherit the agricultural land. Thus, women are mostly left without any title of land in their names and are excluded from the definition of farmers. அவங்க பேரில் லேண்ட் இருந்தால் தானே நம்ம அவங்கள ஃபார்மர்ஸ்னு ஒத்துப்போம். அப்போ தானே ஜென்ரல் நோஷன் மாறும். லைக் ஒன்லி மென் ஆர் டூயிங் அக்ரிகல்ச்சர், விமன் ஆர் நாட் என்கேஜ், தே ஆர் ஒன்லி பார்ட் டைம் லேபரர்ஸ். அந்த நோஷன் மாறணும்னா விமன் ஆல்சோ ஷுட் இன்ஹெரிட் அக்ரிகல்ச்சுரல் லேண்ட். Besides, 81% of women agricultural laborers belong to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and OBCs. So they also contribute to the largest share of casual and landless laborers. இதில் what the government can do அப்படின்னு எக்ஸ்ப்ளோர் பண்ணுறதா நெக்ஸ்ட் பேராகிராஃப். The government too turns a blind eye to their problem of non-recognition and conveniently labels them as cultivators or agricultural laborers. அவங்களுக்கு தேவையான recognition கூட the government is not giving. Whereas 73% of women are engaged in, rural women are engaged in agriculture. Without any recognition, women are systematically excluded from all the benefits of government schemes. Because ஏதாவது ஒரு ஸ்கீம் அவைல் பண்ணணும்னா அந்த லேண்ட் உங்கள் பேரில் இருக்கணும். ஒரு லோன் வாங்கணும்னா அந்த லேண்ட் உங்கள் பேரில் இருக்கணும். அப்போ தான் அது கொலேட்ரலாக வச்சு லோன் வாங்க முடியும். ஆனால் லேண்டே பேரில் இல்லைங்கும் போது women are actually excluded from this credit taking or credit availing schemes of the government. Moreover, they are not guaranteed the rights which they would otherwise be given if they were recognized as farmers, such as loans for cultivation, loan waiver, crop insurance, etc. This non-recognition is only one of their problems because Mahila Kisan Adhikar Manch அப்படினு ஒரு organization is there. They note that they have unequal access to rights over land, water and forests. This is actually a gendered access to support systems like storage facilities, transportation cost, cash for new investment, or paying off old dues, or for other services related to agricultural credit. Since this whole article is important, I am reading this article and giving you meanings. There is also gendered access to inputs and markets. Like for men, it is very easy to approach for a loan, or storage facilities avail pannona illa transportation costs minimize pannona, it's very easy for them. Ana women ku it is very tough because financial access e romba kammiya irukumbodhu all the other services become very tough. Thus, despite their large contribution to the sector, women farmers have been reduced to a marginal section, vulnerable to exploitation. எவ்வளோ பேர் அதுக்கு contribute பண்ணாலும் not many people, not many women farmers are actually reaping the benefits. எவ்வளோ schemes இருந்தாலும் most of the beneficiaries of that schemes are male farmers. Adding salt to the wound, the new farm laws are actually problematic to the women. That's what this article claims, and this article is actually written by Tamilachi Thangapandiyan. Whenever you study any editorial, have a look at the author who has written this article. Day before yesterday, an article was written by Mr. Venkaya Naidu. Like this, very important personalities write editorials in Hindu. So it would be easy for you to grasp a view about what's happening. Since the government policies never aim to reduce disparity or alleviate the distress, women farmers fear the farm laws will further deepen gender inequality in the sector. The first, lack of any mention of MSP that protects farmers from exploitation. It also highlights how women are barely in a position as empowered agents who can either understand or negotiate agreements with traders and corporate entities who are seeking to enter into agreements with the farmers to purchase the produce or other services. Like idhula women edo mention agala, women farmers kuna in the leeways or discounts undu appadina it has mentioned nothing. So already it is problem for all the farmers, adli women farmers ke it will be more problematic. That's what the author claims. It is clear that the farmers will have no bargaining power in corporatization of agriculture. Corporatization. This corporatization of agriculture enna solranga appadina, when agriculture moves or when the products are sold to bigger companies rather than either to the mandis directly or to the government directly, appadi edukumbodhu the farmers, they don't have any big power. If they are even being wronged by the companies, avangala poi sue kuda panna mudiyadhu because they don't have either the legal knowledge or the financial prowess to go and fight against the bigger multinational companies. When will this the problem with this is the corporates will decide the price with no safety net or adequate redressal mechanism for the farmers. Farm Bill 2 talks about corporate farming. Adila how the agreement should be, what all should be mentioned in the agreement, all that is detail kuduthirundalum, how the farmer should approach the court or any other legal remedy if the company is betraying the farmers or it is violating the agreement of the contract farming. Appadiyella andha madri details and the bills la kudukala. Consequently, the small, marginal and medium farmers will be forced to sell their land to big agro business and become wage laborers. So there is a threat of agriculture farmers who are farmers today. So there is a threat of the farmers there is a threat of farmers becoming wage laborers. They can be pushed to that extent. While this struggle rages on, we must not forget the troubles of our women farmers. Perhaps that is why they are in the front line of this protest, to remind us they are too are farmers and they have equal stake in the fight. So that is why in many places, for example in Assam, the farmers agitation or the agitation against the 3 farm bills are taken over by women. Women are leading the protests. So that's what the author claims. This is a fact to remind that women are also farmers. Not only men are doing the cultivation, they are also responsible for it, and they don't have any benefits from it. So that's what this article says. The next article is Metaphor for Hope. Though this is not directly linked to any of 1, 2, 3 GS, the points mentioned in this article can be used in your ethics paper or in your governance paper when you are asked what is the role of media and how could media shape the citizenry, etc. Let's move on. We know that journalism creates a better informed citizenry, meaning people are aware of what's happening around, what are the policies of the government, how to take advantage of the schemes, and who all benefit under the scheme, etc. So journalism or media, which is the fourth pillar of democracy, it creates better informed or active citizenry, thereby creating a better collective future. According to the author, Mr. Panneer Selvan, he says that journalism functions as a conscious breaker of silos. It has an inclusive approach where the focus remains on the idea of public good. He claims that the main aim of proper or good journalism is to aim for the public good. From reports on war to investigation that brings out the failures of various arms of modern nation states, journalism focus is often on the darkness. Around us, but this is aimed at eventually bringing light to our lives. So எப்போவுமே வந்து we would think ஒரு media அப்படின்னா it has to keep on criticizing the government or anything. That's how many medias function these days. Never mind. But he says that though we seem to be criticizing all the time, but it is the media or the journalists who bring out the failures of a government, thereby trying to rectify it. Therefore, by looking at various reports produced by the media or the journalists, the government can rectify its mistakes. He also quotes Charles Eliot Norton's lectures at Harvard University. He says, for humans as an advanced species, our tendency to separate and judge those not in our clan as an enemy, as the vulnerable and deficient needing to control. These are characteristics of a human. To separate and judge who are not in our clan as the vulnerable and the deficient needing control has a long history, not only limited to the animal world or prehistoric man. Race has been a constant arbiter of difference, as have wealth, class and gender, each of which is about power and necessity of control. According to him, man always tries to impose control on other people. ஒரு மேனோட மைண்ட் எப்படி ஒர்க் ஆகும், எனி ஹியூமனோட மைண்ட் எப்படி ஒர்க் ஆகும்னா, அவங்க கிளான்லேயோ அவங்க ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் ரொம்ப கொலோக்கியலாக சொன்னால் அவங்க கேஸ்டில் இல்லாதவங்க, அவங்க நாட்டுக்காரங்க இல்லை அவங்க ஸ்டேட்காரங்க இல்லைன்னா எவ்ரிபடி இஸ் அன் எனிமி, அந்த மாதிரி தான் பார்ப்போம் நம்ம. So that's what he says. எப்போவுமே ஏதாவது ஒரு விஷயத்தில் man will always try to form group and keep people who are close to him. அது casteன்ற விஷயமா இருக்கலாம், இல்லை நேஷ்னாலிட்டியாக இருக்கலாம், இல்லை ஸ்டேட்டாக இருக்கலாம், wealthy individuals always group together அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கலாம், இல்லைனா வந்து poor people always group together and they fight against wealthy individuals. இந்த மாதிரி there will be always, human mind will always go and approach for groups. And the main aim of this group formation is the urge or the necessity to control the other people. According to him, he is telling us what is responsible journalism. Responsible journalism na enna solrara, it should be truth. The news should be true. and their first obligation is to the citizens. They should provide true and proper coverage of any news item. And then loyalty, that should be to the state and to the citizens. Verification or knowing the veracity of the news. They should be independent. In the independence of press நம்ம மெஷர் பண்ணுறதுக்கு தான் World Press Freedom Indexன்னு we have an index, and they should act as a watchdog of what is happening around the society. If the government is failing in certain parts, அதை வந்து peopleோட attention கொண்டு வரணும், so that only the people will actively participate in the governing process, because as we know, democracy is for the people, by the people, and it is of the people. So a proper or an active citizenry will contribute to a proper democracy and the growth of the nation. And there should also be room for dissent. So these are a few criteria what he calls as responsible journalism. இந்த paragraphல ஒரு moral public good பத்தி பேசுறாரு. It is actually an inclusive approach with the focus remains on the idea of public good. Citizen turned to journalism when it mattered most, and actually the social media empowered citizens and its rights. People are getting to know where what is happening and where a country la irukka positives and the policies eppadi namma implement pannalam, adella people are getting to know it. So according to him, he says freedom of press and the value of governance and morality is actually interlinked. What are the ethical concerns of journalism nu pathina? The accuracy and standards for factual reporting, how factual the news are, that is one limitation. And slandering of of the government and other political parties, and the reputation of various news channels is degrading, and ethics, standards, etc. Self-regulation, etc. So what is the way forward is, if we have better journalism, we'll have active citizenry. With active citizenry, we have a better future. Those were the important articles of today. Thank you for listening to us. Stay tuned for tomorrow's editorial.